It was Sunday night. I remember the feeling before I remember the image. Sunday nights always carried a kind of dread for me as a child. School the next morning, the week ahead. A subtle tightening in my chest arose. I was 7 years old. That weekend had felt ordinary. I had spent my time playing outside, riding my bike, running around with the neighborhood kids. Nothing was unusual. But on Sunday night, when the dread began to come, I realized something. I hadn't seen my dad all weekend. That wasn't entirely strange. He wasn't very engaged with me. But something in my body wanted reassurance. So I started looking around the house. His car wasn't in the driveway. I walked down the hall and I opened the door to his bedroom. And I went to the chest of drawers and pulled one open. It was empty. His clothes were gone. I remember the shock, the confusion, the panic rising so fast I could barely breathe. And I ran into the kitchen where my mother was standing and I was screaming, "Where's my daddy? Where's my daddy?" She didn't kneel down. She didn't turn towards me with warmth. Instead, in a flat voice, she said, "Oh, he left." "When?" I asked. "He left Friday," she said. And in that moment, something in my body collapsed. Not just sadness, collapse. There was no explanation, no reassurance, no, "This isn't your fault." There was no, "Well, I'm here." It was just the fact of the situation as it was. The world had changed without a warning, and no one helped me understand it. That moment stayed in my nervous system for years. Later in life, I would find myself drawn to stories about collapse. It didn't matter if it was economic collapse or social breakdown or the end of the world scenarios, the end of systems. It didn't matter if it was the failure of institutions. I began to understand something. When a child experiences sudden destabilization without attuned comfort, the nervous system becomes vigilant. It naturally wants to be prepared next time. It wants warning. It wants truth. At 16 years old, I remember my older brother had given me a journal. It was a hardbound book with blank pages. And after having survived a serious car accident that I was in, I was sitting in a chair in my bedroom, and I wrote in the journal, "I'm 16 years old, and I deserve to know the truth." It wasn't a political statement. It wasn't philosophical. It was existential. I wanted to know, why am I here? Why am I in this world? Why does my nervous system feel this way? Why does life feel unstable? Years later, in my 50s, after another car accident, something unexpected happened. In the middle of the chaos after a crash, the airbag had deployed and the horn was blaring. I felt a profound calmness. It was a release. And I stepped out of the wreckage of my truck and sat down on the side of the road in lotus position. I just simply wanted to feel the stillness that had come over me. For a moment, there was no collapse, no argument, no fear, just a presence. Several days later, while in meditation, I felt compelled to go back to that 16-year-old boy in his room. And I saw myself walking into the house. I opened the front door. I saw my mother in the living room. And I walked down the hallway. And I opened the door. And I saw him sitting there, writing in his journal. Now, what is interesting is that at 16, I had actually felt a presence standing behind me. I had no idea what it was. I just sensed it. But in that meditation, years later, I realized it was me. The older self, the one who had survived, the one who could stand behind that boy and say, "I see you. I hear your fear. I won't overwhelm you with truth you can't yet carry. But I will not leave you alone." That was the moment something integrated in my life. Recently, I imagined a story. It just unfolded in my mind like a dream. I didn't write the story. It just appeared. It was about a man who comes home and tells his wife that he has sold the house, emptied the bank account, and that tomorrow they will be homeless. He tells the wife, "I'm leaving." The wife does not react. She calmly continues making dinner. And a child stands unseen on the stairs. They don't see him, but the child is listening. In this story, the man represents alarm, and the mother represents regulation without warmth, and the child absorbs the tension. For a long time, I sat with this story, and I thought the lesson was about not reacting. I thought it was about staying calm despite collapse narratives. But I realized that is not the entire lesson. The deeper lesson is this: calmness is not enough. Dismissal is not enough. The child needs to be seen. And when destabilization happens, whether it's a divorce, a market crash, a fire, a frightening headline, what the nervous system longs for is attuned presence. Someone who will kneel down and say, "Yes, things change. Yes, the world can sometimes feel unstable. But I'm here. You are not alone." We don't need more alarm, and we don't need cold detachment. What we need is co-regulation. Yesterday, it was a sunny day, and I drove to town, and as I was sitting on the square, a couple came by, and they were happy to see me, and they invited me for breakfast and for coffee. And we sat in the café, and we talked, and we laughed, and we shared stories. And in that moment, I felt something simple and true. This is what matters. Not predicting collapse, not denying it, but engaging with people in a healthy, respectful, calm, regulated, loving way, offering my music, my writings, my poetry, my presence. The truth that my 7-year-old self wanted was not secret information. It was connection. It was reassurance. It was warmth. And maybe the world doesn't end in terror. Maybe it doesn't end in grand revelation either. Maybe the delusions end quietly when we turn toward each other, and especially toward the child inside of us, with compassion. Maybe collapse, when it comes, can be met not with panic or indifference, but with someone kneeling down on the kitchen floor and saying, "It's okay, I see you. And maybe that's enough.